All right, let's try and get this chapter finished up here in the next couple days. I want you to picture in your mind back to the lien theory picture I had drawn earlier with the two-party, where the bank and you are, and the bank loans you money, you sign an IOU, then you give them the mortgage, which makes you the mortgagor, right? So rolling along, bank calls you and says, hey, Raymond, you've missed 19 payments. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I got 19 payments free. They're like, no, I don't think the IOU says you get 19 payments free. I say, well, I think when I read the IOU that I got 19 months of free before I had to make a, they're like, no. They say, oh, okay, let's get someone to read the contract for us and tell us who's right. Who's the only person in the world that can tell you what a contract truly legally says? Not a lawyer. I got a lawyer that'll say whatever opposite of what your lawyer says. Go higher, one higher. The judge, right? The judge will read a contract and says, this is what the law and that contract says. By the way, that judge sits in a special court that reads mortgages, and that court is called a? Dude, you were right there. You foreclosure court. I go in front of the judge and I say, hey, Your Honor, here's the IOU. I think I get 19 months free. And he's like, the bank says you get every month. I read this to say you're going to make $365 payment the first of every month. You're wrong, Raymond. You are now in default of your IOU. That is called foreclosure. So another misnomer is people say, well, I'm in foreclosure. Technically, you're in pre-foreclosure because foreclosure takes about this long. Guilty. Now you're foreclosed on. Because up until the judge reads the contract and says you're guilty, you're arguing over this contract. And the only one that can tell you that is a judge. And because of that, it's a contract. In Indiana, our foreclosure is called judicial foreclosure. We have to go in front of a judge to read the contract. Because the bank doesn't own it. They got a lien, and a lien is what? A future interest in ownership. It's not actual ownership. So we got to go in front of a judge to let him read the contract, and the judge says, you're wrong, Raymond. Pay him. In the three-party system, let me draw the three-party back on the board. Picture it in your mind. Remember, you've got the person that borrows the money. That's you. You got the bank loans you money. You sign the IOU, and then you use a deed of trust to go to a third party, right? Remember that? You got that third party. Who's really the owner of the house? The third party, because I deeded the property to them in a deed of trust. Now, I miss 2 or 3 payments. The bank calls the third party owner of the property and goes, hey, give me that property back. And that third party has no vested interest in the ownership, so they're like, okay, here it is. There is no judge needed because there's no dispute between the owner of the property and the bank. That is called a non-judicial foreclosure. The bank exercises what's called the power of sale clause. It's under non-judicial foreclosure. See, the only reason I went to the court with my bank here in Indiana is because we disagreed on what the IOU said. I'm the owner of the property. I think I got 19 months free. The bank says, no, you don't, so we got to go to a judge and let him read the contract. In the title theory states, the owner of the property has no vested interest in the house, meaning they're not living in it. It's not a big deal to them. It's, what's the old saying? It's just business. It's just business. So the bank calls over to the owner of the house, which is not the guy living in it. It's that third-party person, and goes, hey, that dude missed 3 or 4 payments, and under the power of sale clause in that deed of trust, I want you to sell the house and give me the money. And the owner of the house doesn't argue. Okay? That's called non-judicial foreclosure. They don't need a judge now. You don't need a judge if 2 people agree to do something. Everybody get what I'm saying? We only needed a judge in Indiana because I'm arguing with the bank. In the title theory, the third-party owner and the bank aren't arguing. You want me to do that? Okay, I'll do that. They sell the property. It's called non-judicial. There is some states use this thing called strict foreclosure. Strict foreclosure is literally the bank calls the third-party owner and says, give me the property, and they quit claim the deed to them that afternoon.
Yeah, in other states it's a much faster
Yeah.
transaction.
Here it's a court process. There it's not a court process. States like, once again, Colorado, California, Texas, all of those, 2, 3, 4 months, you could be out. The longest I have personally ever seen was a family that had not made a payment in 24 months. Hadn't made a house payment in 2 years and were still living in the house. All right? Back in the heyday of 2009, it was not uncommon. 8, 9, 10 months, 12 months, 14 months. And people calling us left and right. Can you help us? I haven't made a house payment in 14 months. Investors not making payments but yet collecting rent. Yes.
So in Indiana, does it have to be judicial?
Yes. Well, does it have to be judicial? No.
Like if you know you're behind and they're like, you're behind, you're like, okay.
Okay. Coming to the next one. Thank you for that lead up. There is this thing, because it's a court process, you get the privilege of having your name in the newspaper called a notice of default being sued by Fifth Third. All right? Because it's a public thing. If, say you want to avoid all that, and I call my bank and I go, hey, look, I know that I don't get 19 months, and I'm kind of wrong. How about we kiss and make up and I just deed you the property in lieu of, which means instead of, a foreclosure process. It's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So yes, you can say, you're right, I'm wrong. Let's cut to the chase and get to the part where I got to give you the house back and not go to court. All right? So if you're not willing, they have to go to court. Yeah, because they don't own the property. They can't just walk into the house and go, hey, we loaned you the money. No, it's a lien. And I got to keep stressing that. A lien is a future interest. It's not interest. The bank can't walk into my house and go, that's our house. No, it's not. I paid for it fair and square. I just have an IOU with you. You and I are arguing over the IOU, not the ownership of the house.
So you would just get like something to court?
Yes, you would go to foreclosure court. And the judge would then say, tell me, Raymond, how you think this says you don't get 19 months free. And I go, because I'm such a stellar person, I get 19 months free. And the judge is like, no, you're wrong. You owed that money. Now you're in violation of your IOU, and they've exercised the due on sale. They've exercised the acceleration, all of that stuff we talked about. Literally, the judge says, okay, you're wrong. Pay them the money. Did you take a check? And they're like, no, don't have the money. Okay, now we need to exercise the mortgage, which says that you hypothecated the collateral for that IOU, which you no longer have. I want you to give them the house. That's how it happens. So literally, if you had the money, you could pay it right then. Yeah, on the way here, I hit a scratch off. Here's $100,000. Because truly, banks don't want the house. What do they want? They want their money. The fact is, you can't give them the money, so they now have to exercise the mortgage, which says I will surrender the collateral, whether it's that house, or like the example I gave you the other day, my house in Florida that was free and clear. Now I potentially could lose that one. Whichever one I collateralized, that's the one they're coming after. We want our money. Don't have it. Here's the house.
It seems so easy. Like a slap on the wrist. You don't do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I think losing your house is, plus it goes on your credit for 7 to 10 years. There are lenders now that'll tell you 1 day out of bankruptcy or 1 day out of foreclosure, both of them, will get you a loan. Not at 3.75%. Might be 8.
We closed on a loan 2 days after someone hit the 10-year mark, right?
Yeah, after the 10-year mark.
I was like, okay.
So it depends on the lender. Some lenders go back 7, some go back. All right. So now, we talked about this the other day, but I want to touch on it now because now's truly when it comes in. So when the bank gets your house, they don't want your house. They want your money. They want the money. So they got their house under the arm because they won the court case. Before the bank heads back to their bank, where's the first stop a bank will stop? What? Not the realtor. Not the lender. How about the sheriff? Remember I told you in Indiana, that's one of the sheriff's jobs. So the bank has got this house they just collected from Raymond because he couldn't pony up the money. I don't want the house, I want my money. So their first stop is the sheriff's sale. Banks go to the sheriff's sale and say, hey, Mr. Sheriff, here's the house. Get me my money. And if you remember back to the deed section, bargain and sale deed, what's a sheriff's sale? One implication says what? We're pretty sure we own it. Why does the sheriff say that? No, because the bank has said, here's the house, we own it. Okay, I'll take your word for it. We'll sell it at a sheriff's sale.
Your neighbor.
I hope that's not Morse code. Anybody know Morse code? Help me, I'm stuck in the bathroom.
I have an app for that.
Well, get it out. I got an app on my phone that lets me make phone calls.
My dad is a mayor, and he had me put an app on his phone for fake phone calls to get out of office meetings. Because he has so many meetings. How lame is that?
Did you ever use it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's more lame then.
No. 'Cause I have to
Your
drive
dad's a mayor, where at?
in North Vernon.
The big
Tiny
metropolis?
small town.
Yes, I know. North Vernon South, as opposed to South Bend being up north.
Yeah, where they really like that foreclosure page of the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up until the day of the foreclosure court, I could literally walk in and pay what I owe on my mortgage. I'm behind, haven't paid in 19 months. They called me, they said, we're going to court, we're going to sue you, we're going to foreclosure court, the date's in December, see you there. I hit the scratch-off lottery today. I have the equitable right of redemption on my mortgage. I could go to Fifth Third and go, here's my money, boom, paid off my loan. Now there's no need for foreclosure court because now I own it and I have no lien on it. All right? So just like the taxes, we have the equitable, which means money or fair, right of redemption for foreclosure. Goes to the sheriff. Sheriff sells it. If you recall in the, okay, yeah, good. It's recording there for a minute. I thought I missed the record button. I was really worried we were going to have to start all over again. Sure.
Equitable right of redemption.
What was I saying?
Equitable right of redemption. Sheriff sale.
Went to the sheriff.
God, I'm glad I got my license already.
Deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Sheriff's sale, thank you, thank you, thank you. After the sheriff's sale happens, If you remember, in the tax lien sale, we had a thing called a law, which means statutory right of redemption for 365 days. I could redeem my property by paying the back taxes that I owed. Indiana does not practice the statutory right of redemption for foreclosure. Once the judge says you're foreclosed on, the house is gone. All right? There is no way to recoup. You can't go in and go, dude, I'm really sorry, but on the way home from the court, I hit the scratch off. Can I? No, house is gone. We don't have that law. Some states have that law.
Buy it from the sheriff.
You get a chance to buy it back. But there's one state, I think it's Arizona, get this. In order to keep the right to buy the property back, you have to put a bond down equal to half the value of the house for 30 days or 60 days. Well, if I could afford a bond for half the value of the house, I could have probably just caught my loan up or paid the house off. I mean, the conditions in which they exercise it are so asinine that no one's probably ever been able to exercise it. But some states do practice that. We are not one of them.
So if somebody can exercise the equitable right of redemption, why don't they just exercise the deed in lieu of foreclosure? Because it almost seems like the same thing.
No, not at all. A deed in lieu of foreclosure is I'm surrendering my property to avoid going to the court, and I am allowing you.
You don't pay it,
You surrender the house. The equitable right of redemption means somehow I've come into enough money to pay my loan off before the court, and I give the bank the money. In Indiana, it's a good point, real quick. In Indiana, I tell everybody the deed in lieu of foreclosure is like a unicorn. Unicorn's really cute and nice and mythical. Never seen one. Never seen a deed in lieu of foreclosure work in Indiana. Mainly, the biggest reason is we run a year behind in our taxes. So at a minimum, every house has a 1-year tax lien on it. And if you surrender it to the bank, you surrender it through a quitclaim deed, which now the bank gets what? My interest, which is at least 1 year of taxes, and the bank doesn't want that. Not to mention if there's anything else I did. If I haven't paid my house payment, I probably haven't paid my HOA or some other stuff or got some other lien. So a deed in lieu, I would quit claim my house back to the bank. If the bank takes it, they take all my problems. In Indiana, at a minimum, there's at least 1 year of taxes owed on it. So in Indiana, I've never seen a deed in lieu truly work. It's like a unicorn. It's great, sounds great, pretty, mythical. Never seen one. Because what happens is the bank will send a letter and they'll go, how about a deed in lieu of foreclosure? Then they start talking to the bank and the bank goes, we still got to go through the foreclosure. Because the other thing a foreclosure does is what? Wipes all everything out. All right? So they do have these deed in lieu. I've never seen one successfully executed on an Indiana residential real estate. All right? So, equitable redemption before the sale, yes, we have it. Statutory redemption after the sale, we do not. And I told you the joke. The guy said, I said, why are you calling me the day after the sheriff's sale? He goes, well, it was one of those things, you just ignore. And there are a lot of people that work under the ostrich theory. Put their head in the sand and ignore it, it'll go away. And this guy said, yeah, I went to the sheriff's sale yesterday. What can I do? Pack, because you're done,